One of the big troubles with social media is it brings everyone a bit closer together and sometimes takes away that personal intuition that you may have when you're having a face-to-face conversation with somebody, and it can end in tears. How do everyone? Welcome back to the channel for a Wednesday. Hope you're doing all right. Well, most of us are doing all right unless we get sucked in by some low-life scumbag trying to take your money from you. I'll tell you a little story. A little while ago, well, probably 6 months to a year actually, I was sitting on my computer minding my own business, and up pops a Facebook message from my stepmother. And I thought, oh, okay. So I responded. And then when she replied, I thought, that doesn't sound like you. You know, when you know someone for long enough, nearly 40 years in this case, you get to know how they talk and how they sound. And then the conversation went on, and she asked me for some money. And that raised the alarm bells in my mind, because parents don't ask children for money. It's usually the other way round. And it's just not something she would have done. So I got straight on the phone to my dad, and it turns out my stepmother wasn't anywhere near the computer, so she'd been hacked. And that's just one example. Facebook Messenger. WhatsApp, who also happens to be owned by Facebook, has had a similar problem lately. There's a nurse that goes by the name of Tony, who was packing for a holiday. She was off to Cornwall, and one day she gets a WhatsApp message from her son, or so she thought. Yes, Tony had a conversation on WhatsApp with who she thought was her son, who claimed that he'd managed to drop his phone down the toilet, break it, and lose all of his contacts and his mobile banking app and all the other things that you tend to keep on your mobile phone. Now, considering the fact he's in the RAF and he's 17 years old, he could have been out on the lash, or anything's possible, so it's quite feasible really. The conversation went on, and the person pretending to be Tony's son suddenly turned around and said he had a massive bill to pay. He needed just under £2,000 and he needed it quickly. Like any mum, she turned around and says, yes, I can lend you the money, but I will need it back quickly, as we've got a new boiler being installed, and that's what the money's for. Well, that's where it all went a bit caca. Yes, Tony sent what she thought was her son the money he asked for, and then they gayfully went off on their holidays. She spoke to her son a little bit later that day and spoke to him about the message that she'd had with him, or so she thought was him, and that's when the penny dropped. Her son said, wasn't me, mum, never messaged you this morning. Alarm bells ring, nino, nino, nino. And they get on to the bank, which was Halifax, and to say they weren't very helpful is an understatement. They couldn't refund the money because it had gone into the account and been emptied very quickly indeed. So that money that she'd saved up to get a new boiler installed, all gone because of a scam, because of a scum-sucking upon life con artist. So be very, very careful who you talk to. Be sure they are who you think they are, and for goodness sake, don't give any details or anything online unless you are absolutely 1000% sure it's genuine. Otherwise, we get more cases like this. There are other cases like this, and I'm sure there will be again, but just be ever so careful, folks. This is me, Gabby Cabby, signing off. Toodaloo.